welcome to Wrestling and Everything Coast to Coast. This time with just your host, Buddy Stone Esquire. But we have two very special co-hosts, two of my favorite guys to have here because Mike and Evan are unavailable. So we brought in two great guys with wrestling minds that could fill books and fill libraries, and that is Blair Cody from Wrestling with the 80s all the way up in Nova Scotia, and on the other coast, so we're kind of making a big triangle here, and we've got Benny all the way in Florida, definitely dressed in Florida togs. By the way, you are in phenomenal shape, and happy birthday to you.
Thank you on both counts. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, when you gave your flex out there, I mean that I am definitely seeing a difference in your physique, and you were saying you've lost a lot of weight in recent
time. And my gym streak is, I believe, 189 consecutive days, and the only reason why I missed a day was because it was close for Christmas.
Wow. Well, fortunately, when you're in Florida, it is easier to work out year round. You know,
yeah. It's very convenient,
and you're not stuck in the miles of snow you were when you were in New York. Yes, that's one thing that when I used to visit Philadelphia with my ex out there. You know, I realized something. You know, when you got stuck inside for those 3 months in the winter, boy, you can get it makes people pretty bitter. I know it happens to you, Blair, as well, up in Nova Scotia, when you get nothing but snow all the time. Hopefully you'll get a better winter this time, Blair. Any thoughts about that?
No, just the snow is our workout, right? Shoveling 24/7. That's what we do. That's our cable machine or something.
Oh, man. I've only had to dig my car out of snow once when I was in Tahoe. I was like, wow, that is so miserable. I can't imagine having to do that multiple times every winter. I probably just let it pile up continuously and, you know, let it become like some kind of fossilized.
Just check back in the spring, right?
Or buy a new car and just park it on top.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
That's why bears hibernate, right?
Yeah, I can see why. Just, you know, wait till it's over, wake me up when it's over kind of thing. So anyway, one of the things that I want, one of the things I wanted to talk about was this recent statement. Let me pull it up by Triple H if I can find it. But he was saying, you know, he was saying to everyone that people need to take wrestling less seriously, and that you just have to have fun with it. And you know, this coming from a guy, you know, in charge of $1 billion corporation.
Well, I mean, they did just award a participation trophy to Sami Zayn this weekend, so I guess he's living by the motto, right?
Yes. Well, what do you guys think about that title change?
I think he took one too many bumps, because when wrestling was really great was when everybody took it seriously, both the wrestlers and the fans. You know, somebody's going into the Garden to see Bruno fight Toru Tanaka or George Steele. You don't think they took that seriously? It wasn't fun. It was. You were seeing your hero fight, and the Garden sold out every month. Wrestling was a serious business. So I totally disagree with this statement.
Well, okay. Here's the full quote from Triple H. The other aspect is that I think people lose perspective of sometimes is we're just fun, man. We're fun, and people take it too seriously. Sometimes people get too caught up in it, and it's there to entertain, man. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world. If you just want to turn off for a couple of hours and tune into something cool that you can just lose yourself in and have a good time, WWE is the place to do it. If you've never seen it live, I'm telling you, come to a live event, come to our PLEs, come to a TV. There's nothing like it in entertainment. So what do you guys have to say about that quote directly from Triple H?
I kind of get where he's coming from in a way, because yes, there are some people that are making death threats to individuals because of what's going on in the wrestling world. I agree with Benny. Like, it would help if people would take it a bit more seriously, more so the wrestlers themselves, if they would take it a bit more seriously and live by their characters. But we're in a time now where every little bit of magic has been revealed, every magic trick has been revealed, so the fans know that this is unfortunately not real, as opposed to when Benny was watching and when it was real. So they have to not take some of the things, some of the stalking of the female wrestlers, some of the threats that they're making to either wrestlers themselves or to other wrestling fans. But I really do wish that the actual writers and the bookers and the producers and the folks like Triple H would take it a bit more seriously and not just, I don't know, just go with the flow. I'd like to see some structure to what they're doing. I'd like to see them committed to storylines. I'd like to see them committed to building characters and things like that. So I'd ask him to take it more seriously than the fans right now.
Well, and the other thing is, the SummerSlam's going to be in Minneapolis, in about 5 weeks? What does a ticket cost to get into SummerSlam? Even a nosebleed, and then you multiply that by 4, and you're a dad and you have a couple of sons and you want to take them to see a wrestling event. Maybe back in the day, it was very affordable. Now it's like you go to one event and it's a budget breaker. Now you have to, unless you're very well off, you have to figure like what do I have to do without the rest of the year to make this work?
Okay, single day tickets apparently are $92 for Saturday and then $74 for Sunday. But average standard tickets hover around $338
there you go.
to $350. And you can get a premium ticket for $25,000.
Right.
$25,000. Yeah, but people are taking it too seriously. What's not serious about $25,000? I don't care what it is, even if it's for a Knicks game, like what we just got through. And I heard that there was a seat. It sold for charity reasons, but for $1 million that someone donated.
The only way I'm spending that kind of money is if John Lennon and George Harrison come out of their graves and reunite with Paul and Ringo, and they do a concert. Then maybe I'd spend that kind of money, but otherwise, no.
You think George Harrison would really want to charge that much? If he came out of the grave, he'd probably say, what? I realize you don't actually need that money where you go. So,
well, that's another great subject. Is that how much is Paul worth? Paul's worth, I think, $1.2 billion. And what is he charging for a concert? Like, at what point? Like, even Stevie Nicks, who I think is worth a couple of $100 million, she was in Oklahoma a couple of months ago. She's charging $300. At what point do you give back to the fans? They bought all the albums. They paid for the concerts. When they really couldn't afford it. But now, like, why can't you cut them a break? Why can't you charge $50 and instead of making, I don't know, whatever you make that much less? Do you really need it at this point?
Well, that's almost, and I know this is wrestling and everything, so we can delve into all this.
Yeah.
But, and I don't know how much of a conventional sports guy Blair is. I see you got a Bills picture behind you. Are you a Bills fan? Is that?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. But I was having this discussion with my best friend, who's a huge NBA guy, and we were just saying this on Sunday when we were BSing with each other about on Saturday we were BSing with each other. We're saying, a guy like Steph Curry wants another title, okay, for the Golden State Warriors, and he's going to make $62 million next year. And I'm not begrudging him or saying that he doesn't deserve $62 million, but the thought is you eat up that much of your salary cap by accepting that amount of money. Don't you take some responsibility that then your team isn't going to be competitive to sign any free agents to get you the next title that you really want?
You do, but the problem is, it's based on the fair market value, right, of these players, and it's based on what the agents are asking for these players. And if this guy takes a cut, then the expectation is the next guy takes a cut. I don't think anybody in the world should be making $62 million for anything, to be quite honest.
For throwing a ball through a hole? No.
Yeah, but the problem is the greed comes from the top, and you got owners that are charging these $25,000 for tickets for something, which that's a down payment on a host for some people. That's I'm going to
Not
take
in
it pretty
California,
seriously.
boy.
Not in California, no.
Yeah, you don't get a welcome mat for $25,000.
Yeah.
You get a porta potty, maybe, right?
No,
Or not
no.
even that.
I'm talking the welcome mat. The welcome mat that says, "Where's the other $2 million that you got to go
Right.
into the doorway?" Because that's where.
How about a guy like Walt Frazier, who he's still around? He was the point guard for the Knicks back in the in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, when they last won a championship.
Yeah, and I don't know what he was making back then, but even adjusted for inflation, I bet it's no more than $2 or $3 million. What does he think about these guys who, like, he was a far superior ball player than like 95% of these guys, and these guys are like making more in a year than, you know, the entire Knicks roster for like the last 100 years made combined.
Yeah. No, you make a really good point. And again, what happens is then you get squeezed as fans. You know, you get squeezed, and it isn't just in, you know, hey, ticket prices are you know, thousands of dollars. It's parking's $100. It's you know, concessions. You know,
well, you want to buy like a tchotchke is what I call them. You know, they buy a little bobblehead for your kid, and you know, you want to buy a shirt, a Seth Rollins T-shirt if you're going to a wrestling event. Like after all that, you're probably down a couple of grand.
Well, I went to a minor league baseball game last night, the Sacramento River Cats, because I wanted my kids to see some brand of winning baseball. I didn't want them to see the San Francisco Giants because they deserve better than that. And it's a side story, but we get there and they say, "Oh, do you want a family pack for $43? There's 4 seats, and you get a hot dog and a soda and a little like souvenir mug." I said, "That sounds great." Okay,
that's a great deal.
43 a seat.
Oh, that's not a great deal.
Okay.
Of course, the lady didn't say that until my credit card went through the machine and they handed me the receipt, and it's $200.
Yeah, wow.
And I was like, "Wait a
minor
minute,
league baseball.
What the hell happened?"
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and this is minor league baseball. You know, I'm not saying that they don't. It wasn't a disaster, although they lost 1-0. But and there was supposed to be a fireworks show, and then the fireworks didn't work. So after all of that, and paying for the extra money for the seats, and they had thousands of extra seats. I thought they were just trying to discount their seats and just sell them. You know, hey, $43 for 4 seats would be better than empty seats for nothing. But no, it was all part of a great upsell. You know, to
wow.
I mean, you would have thought this, and there was no sign or anything like that. So, you know, for it saying each seat was X amount. She just said it at the box office.
If there's quoting 40 for 4, I would take that it's, you know, that was the price for the whole pack.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
So
kind of misleading
Sticker
there.
Shock is alive and well and thriving in the minor league. So I'll just say that.
I go to the Clearwater ballpark, the Phillies Florida State League team, and I pay $9 for a ticket. I can pretty much sit anywhere I want, and then I get a Philly cheesesteak for another $9, and then I get a craft beer for another $9, and I just sit out in the sun and watch baseball, and it cost me $27.
Well, next time I'm going to fly out to Florida. It might be cheaper to go to get a plane flight.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, another topic that I wanted to throw out here, because when you're on the internet, okay, you know, it used to be that like the only time you got opinions about wrestling, and you guys did an excellent show about wrestling magazines. I was jealous that I was not part of that, but I'm going to bring a fragment of that here tonight. And that you used to hear the opinions of people that were like Dave Meltzer and other people that at least were semi-qualified writers and people that you think had some knowledge about what they were talking about. But then you enter the great world of the internet, and people write stuff that really makes you have these ice cream headaches, right? And this one guy, and I will mention him by name, at least the first name, of Magnus. I'm going to bring him up right now because I've heard some really, really, really stupid opinions on the internet. This guy may have had the dumbest opinion that I've ever heard. No, it wasn't an opinion. I mean, for him, he was stating a fact according to him. Get ready to hold on to something because you're going to probably wind up like, ugh, when you hear this. He meant this, and we got into a 2-page argument over this. He said, and I quote, we were talking about like the worst finishers in sports, and he said, you know, the Hulk Hogan's leg drop comes up often in that. Okay, he said, and I quote, Hulk Hogan invented the finisher. To which, really, like, I think a blood vessel broke in my brain. I was like, are you really saying this? He said, yes. Everybody up until Hulk Hogan had what you would call a signature move, but they weren't finishers until Hulk Hogan perfected the bounce off the rope, throw the guy into the corner, do the clothesline, they come out, he bounces them off the ropes, gives them the big boot, then he does the leg drop. And that, according to him, revolutionized professional wrestling.
Really?
And we owe it all, from 1982 on forwards, we owe it all to Hulk Hogan. Your thoughts, gentlemen?
The first thing I thought of, because of where you live, Russ, is Ray Stevens with the bombs
away.
Right?
And he did the pile driver for a lot of years.
But I mean, one of my first, go back to the magazines, one of the first wrestling magazines I ever bought was Bruno as WWF champion. This is, I believe, in 1967, going out to San Francisco. And I think we've talked about it on the show before. And wrestling Ray Stevens in a 2 out of 3 fall match. And I believe Ray won the first fall with the bombs away. I mean, pins Bruno in the middle of the ring. That happened maybe once every 2 or 3 years. Bruno won the second fall with a bear hug, and then Ray won the third fall. Bruno got counted out, and there was quite a bit of controversy about is Ray now the champion? Of course he wasn't, but I mean you go back, and I'm sure even before, you go back to Vern Gagne had the sleeper hold probably back in the early 60s. Bruno had the backbreaker. I mean, Superstar had the bear hug. We could go the rest of the show.
I did. I meant to, he's like, you couldn't name 10 wrestlers. He said you could not name 10 wrestlers that had finishers.
Yeah, the claw.
The claw existed from Fritz von Erich well before 1982.
Baron von Raschke, yeah.
Yeah, Baron von Raschke and the Flying Full Nelson by Ken Patera, and the Boston Crab, and the Spinning Toe Hold by the Funks.
And Blair with the figure 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Buddy Rogers.
Figure
4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yet this kind of bizarre revisionist history to say that no, Hulk Hogan invented the finisher. Did he invent the pin count too? Because you might as well give him credit for that also.
Right.
And Hulk Hogan invented the count out win. And he also invented popcorn being served at wrestling matches. I mean,
you know what? He did not even invent hulking up, because if you watch Bruno Sammartino, you watch a lot of his old matches, he did the exact same thing. He did the exact same thing. He just kind of like slowly, hulked up. So he didn't even invent that.
And Billy Graham,
Hogan,
yeah. Billy Graham had about 3/4 of his routine. I mean, including things that Hogan said, were Billy Graham's. Blair,
I always said that Hogan should have mailed Billy Graham half of his paycheck every month in gratitude.
Or Dusty Rhodes, even with the hulking up type of thing, right? You get guys beating down Dusty, and he makes the big comeback, right? And the flip flop and fly and all that stuff. So, which was leading into his finisher. So, I think this guy was just trying to rage bait you. To be honest with you, Russ. I mean, it's it's just ridiculous for anybody to try to say that. I mean, even Hulk Hogan in his own book would have
right.
said that.
I'm thinking of the movie Billy Madison when the guy said at no point did your argument even begin to make sense. It was like everybody in this room is dumber for having listened to that. May God have mercy on your soul.
I agree with
That's
that.
the only thing you should answer back with is that, and
Yeah.
just be done with it. Yeah.
Well, what I said is, and then he's like, well, I can show you video, proving that like Bob Backlund didn't beat people all the time with the chicken wing or the atomic knee drop, and I said, okay, yeah, but Ed Strangler Lewis won like something like 120 matches in a row with the sleeper hold, okay, or the stranglehold, before it was outlawed. But I said, I can't provide video footage of that because that was in the 1920s. There's no video. There's not even any film footage, pretty much, of anything Ed Strangler Lewis did or Carl Gotch did or Lou Thez, right? That stuff just doesn't exist. I mean, they called it the Thez press for a goddamn reason, okay?
Right. Thank you.
And it wasn't because he didn't finish people with it, okay? I mean, yes, if you take an entire cross-section of an entire career, yes, even guys with finishers, won matches with roll-ups and backslides and small packages.
Of course, yeah.
And count-outs and whatnot. Different, sometimes a surprise holder move, or sometimes they would copy the other guy's move and pin the guy with it or make him submit with it as, a turnaround kind of thing. Like, how many people would reverse Ric Flair's figure four, for instance, and try to make him submit, by reversing it. But just the audacity.
I'm thinking of I don't know if you guys remember Johnny Powers, great Canadian wrestler. I think
I remember Jim Powers, but I'm thinking
Johnny Powers was in the 70s, and he bought the national NWF, I believe, from Pedro Martinez. But anyway, when he was younger, he wrestled in the AWA for Vern Gagne, and his signature move, his finisher, was called the Power Lock, which was a nice name for the figure four. And he wound up leaving the promotion because Vern Gagne said, well, at the time, Dick Beyer, the Destroyer, was in the territory as Dr. X. And that was his finisher. And he said, you can't, no two guys in the promotion can have the same finisher. So, I mean, they even protected the finisher like this is back in the 60s.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, if anything that I long for in wrestling when we talk about, having fun and that sort of thing is that finisher move, and knowing that a match will definitely end because of the respect that people had for a specific finisher. And that is another thing that is really gone in pro wrestling today. What are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I say the same thing all the time, Russ. I mean, we need to get back to actually protecting people's moves. It's ridiculous when somebody kicks out 5 times from a finisher in a match. It's no longer a finisher then, if that's the case. It's actually one of the weakest moves you got in your moveset if they kick out of it 5 times. And then somebody else copying somebody's finisher in the same match. It makes no sense. There's no thinking. There's no thought to it. I mean, I keep arguing that you could, because every finisher has been absolutely, butchered at this point, you could get something over like a snapmare or a headlock as a finisher as long as people didn't kick out of it.
Yeah, well, and that gets us back to, Triple H's statement, which is one thing that I've always thought is that as a manager, I mean, you guys haven't managed, you haven't gotten in the ring, but one of the best things to do in the ring is sell,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why selling has become such a dirty word in the business, unless, you're like Triple H and you're selling out, that's a different story. But in ring sales, if somebody's selling something in the ring, you look at and going back to finishers, right? Pre 1982, the Heart Punch was when I managed Super Destroyer 2000, Mark Smith. And I don't know how much you guys remember Mark Smith at all, but I used to describe Mark Smith as if you took a tank and put a tank on top of a tank, you'd have Mark Smith. Okay? He was so huge and so tremendous. And we're trying to think of a finishing move for him as Super Destroyer 2000, because the idea of Super Destroyer 2000 was to make a masked wrestler that went totally retro and wasn't going to be a lucha guy. He was going to be part of that whole. I mean, if you tell me what do I love in wrestling, what I love the most is the big, scary, silent, masked wrestler.
Yeah.
It doesn't say anything. It's my favorite thing. I mean, I know, like managers, they're pretty much in non-existence now.
And what a shame that is, though. That is like so sad, because you could have a guy like, I don't know, Crusher Verdue, who wrestled back in the 70s, could not speak. I don't think he could speak a lick of English, but he had Lou Albano to do his talking for him, and he became a viable contender to Bruno just because you had a manager to get him over. And like now, all these guys have to do their own promos, and not all of them are good.
No, but if you put a mask on him and make him just this scary kind of presence, I mean, Mark, God bless his soul, wasn't a good talker. He was, when I first saw him wrestle in APW, All Pro Wrestling, back in Hayward, he was matched up with this guy, Vinny Massaro, who was the Gigolo at the time. He would like dance around to like Vanilla's Ice Ice Baby, and Mark would wear this like football, jersey. And he would do all this stuff in the ring, and nobody cared. Nobody cared at all. He had no pop whatsoever. And I said to Roland Alexander, the guy who ran APW, it's like, the way to get this guy over is to put him in a mask and make him the embodiment of silent evil, okay? Because the fans will react to that. And the other dynamic I just adore is when you have the kind of Harvey Whippleman type situation where you have a really scrawny, obnoxious little guy and a giant dude next to him. And the little guy says all sorts of things, writes all the checks, and the big guy has to do the payout. He has to be the one that pays for all the mouthing off that the manager does. I love that dynamic. That to me is a grand thing. Like Jimmy Hart was so excellent at that. That was like one of his primary things that he could do. But also Andy Kaufman was wonderful at doing that. Jim Cornette was excellent at doing that. And you know who really perfected that to begin with was the Grand Wizard.
Thank you. You read my mind. Thank you.
I was going somewhere.
Yeah, no, that's great, because, and the thing was, like, you wanted so badly to see that manager get nailed, and the babyface would come so close, and a lot of times you never got that payoff, but you kept coming back because you wanted that payoff so badly. You wanted to see the Grand Wizard get belted just one time.
He never did, though, did he?
I don't think I saw him take one hit by Chief Jay Strongbow. I think he ran into him, or I think he hit him once, but that was it. I mean, you just didn't touch the Wizard ever.
It's funny, Russ, when you mentioned Jimmy Hart, that's who popped into my head. I was thinking of Jimmy Hart, first of all, back in like 85 with King Kong Bundy, and you see him hop up into King Kong Bundy's arms at the end of a match,
He looks like a little tiny baby in his arms.
With that high-pitched voice, too.
Yes, yeah. And then I thought of him with Earthquake, and Earthquake would be doing his promo, and Jimmy Hart would be jumping up and down behind him because he couldn't see past him, but he was getting, so you're just like, oh, I just want to get that guy. But the other aspect of that you're mentioning is when you have that combination, you immediately are setting up that face turn for that big giant wrestler, because eventually he gets tired of paying the price for passing the checks. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The firing breakdown is a great dynamic and a really great angle ender and face turn, but you got to work it.
Yep.
Right?
It's got to go on for a while till the fans demand it, right? Yeah.
And seeing like weeks or months worth of abuse by the manager, dissing the guy, especially when he loses, and saying, what am I hiring you for? Why are you losing like this? You're just a loser. I could find any jobber on the street and make them into a champion, and look at what you're doing to me. But you can't have him blow up the first time that happens.
No.
You gotta build it and build it and build it. Maybe have a tag match too, where he winds up losing, and then you have the other guy get mad at the dude for losing. Especially if it's the managerial interference that winds up making him lose. That's even better, to create more heat.
Well, how about, I was thinking of Magnum TA and Mr. Wrestling too. Not necessarily a manager, but like a mentor. And I mean, how he tormented TA for weeks and weeks until you got that payoff finally on TV. Mr. Wrestling goes to slap TA, and TA grabs his wrist and then gets in the ring and challenges him. But how long did they work that angle?
Yeah, and he refused to touch him because he was his mentor, which was a great angle because you kept your baby face heroic in that way, right?
Absolutely, and I just don't see, the WWE or even AEW. Why wouldn't AEW do something like that and just, try to make a storyline that goes along those edges? They don't, and especially one that you have to build up like that. Like Luchasaurus would have been a great guy to do that with before they, really kind of pretty much ruined his character, Mm-hmm. He wasn't a talker. He wasn't a guy that got on the mic or anything like that. He could have done a dynamic sort of thing like with that, and him and Jungle Boy and that kind of thing. But they just didn't really. It just seems like that sort of thought process of doing that kind of angle is just lost now, and I feel bad for that because I think that was a fun way to run things. And when I watch older stuff, I see stuff with like Captain Lou Albano. And I see stuff with Classy Freddie Blassie, and just saying to myself, boy, it's just that, and I guess, part of it is a loss of that carnival atmosphere. Mm-hmm. Because being a manager was like being a carnival barker, where you were saying, step right up, ladies and gentlemen. See this special. In fact, that was one of the things I wanted to do with Mark so badly, was to do an ongoing feats of strength promo where he would challenge somebody out of the audience to do feats of strength, and then he would do something, and then like an iron bar bend or ripping the phone book in half. Kind of, who rips a phone book in half? That used to be like the sign that you were like super strong, remember? It's like now.
Or blowing up the water bottle.
Yes.
Yes.
Beautiful. Or crushing an apple, something like that. Yeah. Like, and then hand it to the person. Then when they can't do it, you offer them $1,000 if they can do it. They can't do it, and then you berate them. What's great is then you get someone from the audience that's a plant, that's a student, that's coming up and coming. And he then, winds up besting your wrestler in the strength thing, and then you go beat him up, and then the next week you've got him in the ring with your man, to show that he is a tough guy, and you can introduce. They kind of do that with Hillbilly Jim. I guess where I'm going with that was, I don't know if you remember, but that was kind of how they introduced Hillbilly Jim. Was just a guy in the audience that came out.
Big Jim, they used to call him. He wasn't even Hillbilly Jim. He was Big Jim. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember
the other one that comes to mind, I think the last time I remember seeing something like that with WWE was Santino Marella.
Yes, in Italy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. With Umaga.
How long ago was that? Like a decade?
Oh, God, it's got to be around 2013 or something like that, right?
Yeah, so like a decade and a half, And I've always said, and this is okay, the most true statement in all of wrestling, just like our guest for tonight, is card subject to change. Okay, that is something that just, if you don't know that, then you don't know professional wrestling. I have worked, hundreds of shows. I can't say that I've ever worked a single show without the card changing. I think that is just something that can be made with an absolute statement.
Yeah.
An absolute statement. There's never been a wrestling show in the history of professional wrestling. I think you can go back to Greek times where the card didn't change somehow. Asclepius versus, Theomedes or something like that. They had, Theomedes couldn't make the trip out from Delphi, so they had to,
you have such a good point there, Russ, though, because like if you watch any of these, like I'll watch old WWF shows, but you can watch Mid South or Championship Wrestling from Florida, whoever, whichever studio show it is. Those managers, their job. I mean that whole show is a 60-minute infomercial to sell tickets, and that's what they're doing. When they do those interviews, those managers are selling tickets to the show.
Yeah, and I mean, being able to connect yourself back to that carnival barking type atmosphere is part of that old school fun that the WWE wants to tell people to get into, but then won't do it. They say it's the fans' fault for not loving what we're putting out in front of them. But we won't give the fans the things that we know they really used to enjoy. And yet it's the fans' fault. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's the fans are asking for something in particular. And the beauty of wrestling and the reason why wrestling has been around forever is there's a formula to this. You guys know that. There's a formula. And if you follow the formula, it works over and over and over again. You just got to update your players in the game and just go with the same thing. Like everything that you're mentioning, Russ, and I talk about this all the time on my show too. Everything that worked in the past, we're saying this can work today. You just got to put a little modern touch on it. Just put a little sprinkle of modern stuff on it. But there's a reason why for years and years and years, these places, these arenas sold out. There's a reason why, Benny, you talk about it, the TV ratings in Kentucky or Louisville, Kentucky, it was 7, or Memphis, Tennessee was 7 out of 10 homes are watching this stuff. It works, but this is like, it just seems so modern times. It's like we take something, and this isn't just wrestling. We take something that works perfectly, and we gotta bring our thought process in. We got to bring HR in. We got to bring all these people in because they got to put their little stamp on it. It's like, but that was working, let's keep it going. So,
but one of the reasons why we loved it so much back in the day is like I used to go to the Nassau Coliseum once I got my license in 1972. Well, and I'd go to the WWF card, and they would announce an intermission, the next card, and I could go to the box office during intermission and buy tickets, and I knew that I was going to see them again next month, and I would do that month after month. Where now, like if I go to I think it's Amalie Arena in Tampa, and I buy nosebleed tickets for $125, I'm not going to see these guys again for another year. They're not going to come back, and so I mean, it was so much more personal to us. We got to see it month after month. Where now, to me, it's like it's just unapproachable now. It's not. It's impersonal. Back then, I would consider it intimate. Even
if you want to see live WWE matches monthly, all you have to do is move to Saudi Arabia. Then you're going to be guaranteed a chance to see the WWE live every month soon. That's probably going to be the case.
To your point,
they'll be the only ones to get monthly shows.
Yeah, I was going to say, to your point too, Benny, I mean, the reason that they were doing that back then is we didn't have the amount of access and social media and stuff on TV in order to keep that. So they had to announce that in order for fans to want to come back to the arena.
Right.
Now when we're blessed with so much outreach and social media, they could be doing this so easily. Is it
blessed or is it a curse?
Well, if you used it the right way, this is what I'm talking about. Like, if you used it a little bit kayfabe style, you could build up so much throughout the weeks leading up to your next visit to a next town that people are going to tune in. The ratings should be higher than ever, to be quite honest, because you should be building that up. But unfortunately, it's not. And, meanwhile, you got a guy like Lou Albano or Don Morocco, who in 30 seconds is talking you into the seat for the next show that's going on, and that's all you have for your advertising. That's it. And they can
Right.
talk you into the seat just from what they're doing. But now you can have 24/7 a guy doing promos on a show, and they're still not going to get any people to come to it.
Well, they don't reference house shows on any of the, you know, they mention the, you know, the major PLEs. They'll mention SummerSlam, you know, Night of Champions, but they won't mention that they're going to be in, you know, San Diego next week. They don't
No, I
promote
used to
that
love
anymore.
that too, by the way. I used to love that too when they went to commercials and they'd say,
Yes.
coming next at Roanoke, Virginia. Then,
Yes.
you know, we're going to be at the Omni in Atlanta, and then we're going to be, and then when they would say, you know, Oakland Coliseum, I'd be like, yeah, really? Wow, okay, I better come, you know, because they're coming around, you know, at this time. So it would be exciting to see your team, your city mentioned, because if you didn't watch the show, you would know when they were coming. What other way do we have to find out when wrestling was coming to your town unless somebody nailed a poster up to the wall somewhere, right? It wasn't unless you watched the show that you had some clue that wrestling was coming. I mean, I guess you could stop by the box office, but, you know, where I live, stopping by the box office of the Cow Palace or the Oakland Coliseum is quite a trek. It'd take you about 45 minutes to an hour to get over there. So it's not like you casually walk up to the box office and say, hey, by the way, when's wrestling coming back? Right?
Russ, I don't think I've ever asked you this. Maybe I have on air, but and totally off topic, but I'm very, very, very fond, or I was back in the day, of roller derby, and you guys were the hotbed in San Francisco. Did you ever go to see the Bombers, the Bay Bombers?
Yes and no. I did see them once. I did see them once when my aunt and uncle took me to go see them when I was about 7. So I don't remember much about it. But one of the people that I worked with, and a manager, another manager, this guy named Icebox Thompson, and he was a roller derby player back then.
Icebox. Was he built like one or like?
He's like 350. He was one of the jammers. He was one of the guys that would, you know, because so huge, he would just get in the way of everybody, and nobody could get around him. So you'd like be like a moving roadblock, you know, in the middle of the. And yeah, I loved roller derby. We used to watch it all because they would tag team it. It would be roller derby and then wrestling in my area. So you would watch roller derby, that gets you excited. And then you'd watch wrestling, and then you'd be in just this frothing, just kind of like buzzing action mode because you got to see all.
Was it the Kezar Pavilion? Was that where roller derby was?
Yes.
Okay.
And I once performed at Kezar. So
wow.
Yeah, it was actually a really good show. It was one of my better matches too.
Were you a jammer?
What?
Were you a jammer?
Oh no, I managed. I managed Super Destroyer 2000 against Donovan Morgan for the APW title.
But you know, a couple of the roller derby teams had heel managers. The roller derby team, some of them did.
Yeah, they did, and they would go and they'd throw. You know, they trip guys as they would come across and stuff like that.
Hook them
Yeah, and it's a little surprising that roller derby hasn't found a way to come back. You know,
it did in the 90s. They did roller games or something like that. They called it, but it didn't last long.
I remember that. I was excited about that. Remember they had an alligator in the middle that you had to jump over. You know, I think they got rid of it because of PETA.
It's
the
like
folks
jumping
from
the
PETA.
shark, right?
No, it was an alligator that you were supposed to jump over.
Well, I'm saying it's the equivalent of jump like Happy Days, jumping the shark.
Oh yeah.
They jumped the gator, right?
I had to explain that to my kids.
Jumping the shark.
And they looked at me like, you must be making the biggest shit. You think we're that stupid to fall for an explanation like that? I'm like, no, really. First of all, serialized television was a thing, okay? Because they don't know what serialized television is because there's such a thing as binge watching now, right? Mm-hmm. So unless the series ends, they kind of know about what it is when a series like ends a season. That's what a cliffhanger is. But otherwise, it's not, a lot of times, I'll wait for the whole series to end, and then you binge watch the entire thing from start to finish. And there is no cliffhanger because you watch the whole darn thing at once, or within a couple nights, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't understand. Like when I had to explain to them, like after The Empire Strikes Back ended, we had to wait 7 years to get the conclusion of that movie.
Nielsen ratings were everything back then.
Yeah. So a couple other quick topics. Well, I can't believe the hour ends. I could talk to you guys for 4 hours about this stuff because well, first of all, Mike's never going to watch this. He never watches these things over again. So I can say this. I love Mike, but it's sometimes hard to get a word in. I love having a discussion about wrestling than listen to Mike, lecture us for a little while. And then we have our own
discussion. He should be like Professor Mike or Dr. Mike, yeah.
Yes. I enjoy having a chance to have an actual round robin discussion with everybody, hear what you guys have to say about this. But sometimes I don't get a chance to talk, so it makes me kind of go nuts when I have a chance to finally say stuff. But one thing we started this discussion off before everything was that Sami Zayn is now the Universal Champion. I'm not going to say anything about Sami Zayn or anything like this, but here's a question for both of you guys. How long will the WWE be able to keep a Universal Champion in its pants before there's another WWF Heavyweight Champion and another World's Heavyweight Champion? How long? It's not a matter of if. It's just like the stupid lottery that they will do between SmackDown and Raw, and then 3 weeks later, half the roster on SmackDown winds up on Raw, and the other half of the Raw roster winds up on SmackDown, and a month later you said, was there even a lottery? What the hell happened to that? They're going to do the same damn thing with the Universal Champion. What do you guys say?
Well, I think because of the whole brand split, like the whole network split, let's call it this, because you got Netflix for Raw and you've got, I don't even know what it is now. I think it's USA for SmackDown or something like that. But I can't keep track of it.
The Home Gardening Network, I think.
Yeah, but you're going to always have two world champions, for lack of better terms for it. But I hate it. I absolutely hate it. To me, what's your most important title? Which I don't know which it is right now, because 1 minute it jumps to the world title because Roman's got it. The next minute it's the other title because Cody's got it. It's obviously now your champs are Sammy and Roman. So who's your top guy? Let's ask that question.
Well, you call it the Universal title. It should be Sami Zayn. It should be. But it isn't.
Or is it Undisputed now?
No.
They don't call it that anymore. The Undisputed, they call it Universal?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just nuts.
Yeah, I mean, because you still have Roman Reigns being the recognized champion.
So you champion of the universe then? Like you champion over Uranus and Saturn, like the whole universe? Like
Yes.
To me, the universe is bigger than the world.
I mean how sad is it? I mean, I nothing against Sami Zayn, but you got a guy who looks like he's getting a pizza at Sbarro's in the food court, and now he's the world champion. Like,
I'm tired. I'm tired of the consolation prizes. For not everybody deserves a world. God bless Sami Zayn. He deserves to have a very good career, and he deserves to make a lot of money off this.
Nice living, yeah, absolutely.
Yes, but not everybody needs to be world champion. What's the point of it if it becomes that? Like, great. So what are they going to do now? I guess Obafemi won the King of the Ring. So is he just going to go and destroy Sammy at SummerSlam in like 10 seconds, and there you go? There's Sammy's run, or
that's probably what's going to happen too. Like,
well, what the WWE needs to do is separate the titles into two very easy to understand titles. One is your defending world champion, and the other one is the symbolic world champion, the one that just shows up for pay-per-views, the 4 events. He's like, you win this title, and then you only have to defend it 4 times a year. When Roman Reigns won the title, I posted on Facebook, I'm really looking forward to Roman Reigns and both of his title defenses this year.
Looking forward to not seeing Roman Reigns every week.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to all 2 of his title defenses that he's going to have as champion. Because that's, even if he holds it for 4 years, he'll probably wind up defending it like twice, And they did that with Brock Lesnar for so many years, you know, where he's an absentee champion. So what they're going to do is they're going to put Sami Zayn through the mill, the grist mill. And he's going to be the one who's going to have to defend his title all the time. So they can say, we've got a world titles match. You know, we've got a heavyweight title match on the card. You know, and Sami Zayn will get beaten up. And Roman Reigns will do the SummerSlam, the WrestleMania appearances, the Survivor Series, and, you know, maybe one other one in a year. And that's all we're going to see. And he'll still be considered as much a champion as Sami Zayn. Or my thought is they're just going to churn the waters with that title. They're just going to, you know, it'll be Gunther one week and Sami Zayn another week, and then Braun Breaker will get it, and then they'll give it to...
then it becomes meaningless because it's not special anymore.
Yeah.
I wonder, Bob Backlund, I believe, like in the almost 6 years he was champion, I think he had like almost 900 title defenses. I wonder what he thinks of these guys that wrestle like less than 50 times a year now.
And he made a fraction of what these guys
exactly.
made. You know, absolutely. Blair, your thoughts?
Yeah, I got a question though. So with the 900 title defenses, Benny, like how many would he have done on TV?
Rarely. I mean, none. I mean, as far as like weekly TV.
Yeah, exactly. Like he might have done the big Madison Square Garden every month, right? That show that would have been on MSG.
He would make TV appearances just for interviews. He would, you know, he would promote the next card at the Philly Spectrum or the Boston Garden or Madison Square Garden, but he was out there. You know, he was wrestling at, you know, the Poughkeepsie Junior High School, which now you're never going to see a wrestling show at a junior high school, or, you know, but he, you know, he was, I think it was Ivan Koloff. I did a story about Ivan Koloff, and he wrestled for I think 11 years in a row, over 250 times a year. I mean, just these guys were like every day they were at. I mean, Evan's book, right? I mean, or Evan's movie is documents how these guys. I mean, what a life they had. Or I mean, it really wasn't much of a life. I mean, if you had a family, because you never saw them, you're out making a living.
Yeah, I was going to go with that with somewhere though in favor of Backlund. I'm going to say this. That wasn't a shot on Backlund. What I'm saying is, because you weren't seeing him defending it on TV all the time, it made it special when you saw him in person. What I think, like, everybody goes nuts about when Seth Rollins won the title and he's like, oh, open challenge, I'm going to defend it every week. That doesn't help the title. I'm sorry to say, like, the title should feel special. It should feel like somebody made their way up the ranks to get to that title shot. But if it's being defended every week on Raw or on SmackDown, it doesn't feel as special to me. That's why you have the Intercontinental title. That's why you have the IC or the US title. But if you have your champion there with the title and they're building up feuds with people, that's what makes it special. When you have 10 guys in the main event scene that are fighting it out for the right to fight your champion, that's what makes it special. And then you have the champion appearing at house shows and stuff like that. But so I like how it was back in the day when it was felt like it was that special show that you got to see on TV. For me, at that time, it was Saturday Night's Main Event. I knew the only way I was going to see Hogan defend the title was Saturday Night's Main Event.
Well,
and it was huge, right? But Hogan would be on your Saturday morning show doing, you know, promo after promo or in-ring segment or whatever.
But you wouldn't see him.
Yeah. So that's my problem with, like, yeah, great, we'll throw it on Sammy. Sammy will be on SmackDown, he'll be on Raw, he'll be on this, he'll be on that, and I'll be tired of Sammy after a month, you know?
I never saw cage match. I never saw cage match until I rented a videotape that had a cage match on it, okay? I'd never seen one. I'd heard so much about cage matches. And I had to go rent a videotape to watch one. And I was like, whoa, this is intense. What an amazing thing. But was a cage match ever on TV until like the late 80s or something? Mid to late 80s? You never saw one from the 70s. You never saw a cage match on TV in the 70s. I don't think. I
really think that at this point, you know, TV is the end product. There's just so much money in it with Netflix and everything, where back in the day, TV was the means to the end being, the big
Get
the big
people to
show
show.
at the Garden or the Omni or the Cow Palace or wherever. Now the TV is the end itself, and it's sad.
Yet the ratings are never been lower.
Right.
So
Yeah.
nobody's watching
there's
it.
so many things to choose from, and so there isn't just concentrated like, there was when I was, a young lad in my teens, there was one wrestling show you could watch, which was Big Time Wrestling here in the Bay Area. It was it. You didn't have anything else to choose from. There were no other shows. Maybe you could find Mexican wrestling on UHF if you were lucky.
And you had to watch it when it happened, right? Or you missed it.
It was appointment television, and
you had to have your fanny on the couch in the living room. Otherwise, you missed wrestling.
And so and it was only a 1 hour show, and we thrived for that. That was like when we got a little bit of that lasted you for the whole week so you could get to watch it again.
They weren't even good matches. They were all, squash matches. I mean, I saw Frankie Williams every week, Silvano Souza, those guys getting squashed. But the whole idea, I mean, it worked for years.
Coco Savage.
What's that?
Not Coco Savage.
Coco Samoa.
Coco Samoa. Yeah.
I don't remember him in the East Coast, but we had our guys, every week. They Lee Wong from Ecuador. They lasted 2 minutes.
And the Multi brothers.
They made the heels look like monsters, and if they were facing Bruno, whoever they were facing, you thought, oh crap, man, Bruno's in trouble. These guys are unbeatable.
I'd still argue that
they knew how to work it.
I'd still argue that wrestling's almost must see at the like you said, you have to watch it when it happened back then, or you missed it. But it still kind of is because we're in the age of spoilers, right? I didn't watch what was it? It was Night of Champions or something
Night of Champions,
that. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't watch it live, and then I'm looking on my phone, and I didn't even realize it had happened because it was in Saudi Arabia. And then I see the spoiler: Sammy wins the title. Well, I'm like, oh well, I'm not going to watch it now.
Why would you?
Yeah, why would I? Right? So it is almost like still appointment TV if you don't want to get it spoiled on you and ruin the moment.
Because the fact that we know that the next show that the WWE has, they're just going to run repeats of everything that happened in Night of the Champions that was worth anything to watch anyway.
And you can also watch about 9,000 videos on YouTube, every podcaster in existence recapping it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Including us, but fortunately we had other things to talk about.
But we're far more interesting because we can talk about anything.
That's what I love about you guys. That's what I love about you guys. And speaking of, we're at the hour.
Wow.
I can't believe it. It goes by so fast, and you guys are so knowledgeable, and I really appreciate you guys coming out and being on the show this week. Why don't you guys? I want to plug you, Blair, because I want to say I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. I just don't. I mean, I don't have the time for it. Yours is always worth listening to. I've never heard one of your podcasts where I said, "Oh, well, that was just a lot of hot air and a waste of time." I was like, I'm always like, "Wow, that was really thoughtful." That was a really thoughtful podcast. So people should watch Wrestling with the 80s because it will put color in your cheeks and put hair on your chest. And Benny, you have also a really fascinating podcast, a couple really fascinating podcasts. So I'll let you actually promote your podcast, and then Blair, I won't take your words out of your mouth. You can promote your podcast too.
I really like the way you put over Blair's podcast. Like you're almost like the world's most interesting man. I don't always watch podcasts, but when I do, it's Wrestling with the 80s. No, but you are 100% right. I've been on Blair's show twice now. I've been honored to be on his show, and I mean, there's interviews and there's interviews. Blair makes me feel so comfortable, like we're just having a beer at Buffalo Wild Wings and just chatting about the past, and that's when you know that you have a good interviewer. And yeah, definitely a great show. I am on Monday night, True Crime with the Bad Girl La Playa and Dangerous Stave. We're doing Marilyn Monroe, not literally doing her, but we're covering her on Monday night.
That's going to be censored.
That'll make the cutting room floor, right? Wednesday, When It Was Real with Nikita Brezhnikov, and then I do a show with a gentleman named Joe Lowry called the Morning Slam Session, which is a current wrestling news show, which drops on his channel, Ringside with What a Day, Joe Lowry, every Friday at 10. And then I'm on a gentleman named Pat Sims. He is a Diamond Dallas Page Yoga DDPY certified instructor, hardcore wrestling fan, great guy. And every Saturday at 10, I am on his wrestling show. So I'm pretty busy. Busy is good, though.
Very good. And Blair, give your own personal plug for Wrestling with the 80s.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I can do it any better than what you two guys did. I mean, my head's about to explode, but thank you very much for that. I always say the podcast is only as strong as the guests that you have on, and both you guys have been guests on my show. So, I mean, that speaks a lot. Both your shows are my every week, as you can tell by my comments. I watch them every time that they're coming out. So they've got my attention too, and I love what both you do. But yeah, if you want to catch Wrestling with the 80s, just YouTube is where you'll find me, Wrestling with the 80s. I'm also over on Facebook. I have a Facebook page for Wrestling with the 80s if you want to follow me there, and Instagram as well, so you can find me there. And I'm pretty excited. I'm just finishing editing up my latest episode, which was with Steve Gennarelli from Stick to Wrestling.
Oh,
and
what a great guy!
What a great guy! Yeah, I want to rename him Steve Generosity, right? Because he's just so nice, so giving with what he was, helping out with on the podcast. So just putting the finishing touches
very knowledgeable, on that. Good guy, really good guy.
Yeah. We talked about before the boom is what I'm going to call it. Before that Hulkamania Rock and Wrestling era, what it was like prior to that, because I think
before finishers were created.
Yeah, exactly. Before finishers were created, So I think there's not enough love on that early 80 to 83 era and some of the people there. So that was interesting to talk about that. And of course, Steve's a huge fan of the Hulkamania era as well. So I think I'll have him back to talk that. But yeah, so good stuff. But thank you very much. I really appreciate the kind words with the show.
Well, with that, we're done with this week's show. We've got other guests scheduled for next week, but thank you guys so much for being here and really enjoyed having you. And of course, we'll have you on again soon. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.